Hi, everybody. Welcome to WCAX. We're starting a few minutes late today. Just wanted to get on here with our Calvin Cutler and just talk Vermont, especially public education in Vermont after the governor's budget address as well. So, Calvin, first things first. Thanks for hopping on today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, John, as always.
Yeah. So just jumping right into it, you look at your story from yesterday. You were out in Peacham, talking to some residents there. A big issue, kind of on the docket, is school consolidation, right? And I think a big thing, especially in rural Vermont towns, is that like, rural identity, and especially being tied to where you went to school and being a staple in the community. So, kind of, what did you hear from residents out there, and what they tell you as far as their concerns in the wake of last week's budget address?
Yeah, thanks. In a word, worry, concern, that potentially this plan that it was floated by the governor and that is under consideration by state lawmakers may lead to potential consolidations or closures of individual schools in rural parts of the state. This isn't a new conversation. With Act 46 about a decade or so ago, when that was passed, there was a lot of hand-wringing and concern about consolidation, and that did lead to some school closures organically. But this, that 14% property tax increase that we had last year, the shift in the balance of power and the shifting political winds in Montpelier have created an environment really where there is more willingness or more openness among Democrats to come to the table and listen to these ideas that Governor Phil Scott is pitching. Just to sort of recap, the governor's plan in would switch over to a foundation formula, which they said would, bring down education spending by about $180 million or so. And the other part being consolidating our some 120, 130 school districts and supervisory unions into 5 regional districts. So that is the concern of many. There's actually a coalition that's forming. They're calling themselves the Vermont Community School Alliance, basically pushing back on the governor's plan. And there's going to be right now there's about 10 schools and districts that are part of it, mostly in the Northeast Kingdom. But there's going to be other districts, a couple dozen, over the next few weeks that are going to be voting on at their school boards of whether to be a part of this group to send a message to the governor and to state lawmakers that they need to slow their roll and not, fundamentally, they say, dismantle public education in rural Vermont.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch too. I know this was maybe some of your previous reporting on this as well, but when you get to talk about consolidation like that, especially from districts going just down to 5 districts, is that unheard of? Is that a gargantuan task as we start this, or is that something more common in other states and the like?
Yeah, I mean it's a great question, and a lot of people point to New York, for instance, where we have about 80,000 students, but in New York there are many more students, but they have just a handful of school districts, and there's school districts in the state of New York that have more than 80,000 students. So as I said, it's not entirely new here, but yeah, I mean certainly a lot of people are drawing political or drawing parallels, if you will, to other states. And of course, with Vermont's, our education system, we have a really unique way of funding our schools. Of course, your school budgets are made on the local level, and they are funded, and they come out of a statewide education fund.
Yeah.
That in itself, really sets Vermont apart. And then, of course, the backdrop to this being we have an aging demographic. We have fewer students, a declining student enrollment. We've lost about 15 to 20,000 students over the last several decades, but yet it costs. We are one of the highest in terms of per pupil spending in the country, in part because of our geography, right?
Yeah.
We talk about Peacham and many of these rural towns being isolated. It costs money to bus students from point A to point B. There's a lot of different drivers, of course, of school spending, but that's part of the conversation.
Yeah. I guess my last point, and this is a little more off the cuff, is it more or less a matter of time when it comes to something like this, where it's say, hey, we want to hold out, we want to keep our school in this community, but the buck has to stop somewhere.
It's a really good question, John.
I don't know.
That's
I
the
don't know if that's
$1 million question, and I don't think anybody knows right now.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, there's more willingness among state lawmakers to actually have this conversation. The future on the Commission on the Future of Public Education has been sort of talking about this, and that's been the big elephant in the room. And House Speaker Jill Krowinski has said that we will see big changes this year. How many of the governor's ideas are actually adopted? Will they land on 5 school districts? We'll see. But, I think something definitely has to give here. But the question is, what will that look like and who will it be? And time really isn't on our side here. I mean, it's fascinating because the governor pitched his plan and it will take about 4 years. But the town meeting daybreak is just about a month away. That's crossover day. So any bill that the House or Senate works on, that's the unofficial date where it has to be sort of sent over to the other chamber. Yeah. And so if we're talking about massive systemic changes to our education system, at least the timeline is very short here. But again, this is going to be a multi-year conversation. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Absolutely. And I think this last point too, and I'm sorry if you touched on this already. You and I talked before this. This week, Thursday, right? It's committee on I know the short term is the blob. Is this Thursday? Can I just talk about that really quickly?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So this there's been a number of joint hearings and committees that the have the House Ways and Means Committee, the Education Committee, committees of jurisdiction have been holding these joint hearings essentially. On the education system. And later this week, we're going to be hearing from some of the key players that really are implementing this work on the ground in schools. I'm thinking the Vermont NEA, the Vermont Principals Association, the Vermont Superintendents Association. And these are very influential groups in Montpelier, and they wield quite a large amount of power. So it'll be interesting to see. This is sort of their first kind of reaction to the governor's proposal, and we'll have to see. They'll certainly have concerns with it. I think that's fair to say. A lot of folks might be concerned about consolidation, but I'll be looking for what will be the response from Democratic lawmakers to some of their concerns. Are those how will the people that actually are going to be casting the votes and voting on these bills, how will they be engaging with sort of the education establishment? The stakes are incredibly high here, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely be tuning in for it. Looking forward to that coverage as well. It sounds like that's some work cut out for you. But Calvin, thanks so much for hopping on again. We'll show that in just a sec. You've gone out to Peacham, but appreciate you hopping on today.
Thank you, John.
Awesome. Thanks. Have a good one. Yeah, that was Calvin Cutler there, just talking about some shake-ups in education in Vermont here. So let's just pull this up. Of course, I got 12 tabs open. Hold on.
Ask just about anybody in the Caledonia County town of Peacham where their sense of community comes from. They'll tell you from within the 4 walls of their local school. A proposal in Montpelier to potentially consolidate school districts to save money in the education system is once again raising concerns about the future of the school. Governor Phil Scott's sweeping education reform plan aims to cut about $180 million from the $2.4 billion education fund. But consolidating over 130 school districts into about 5 is the concern amongst many, with small schools calling out the elephant in the room.
They see the governor's proposal for what it actually means to rural schools. And it means closure.
Former State Board of Education member Margaret McLean is worried Scott's proposal would dismantle public education, so she's spearheading a new alliance of small schools to push back on the plan. Education Secretary Zoe Saunders was not available for an interview, but others, like Peachum Select Board Chair Alfred Dedham, worry closures could create a negative feedback loop of young families leaving town.
Our community are the people that reside here and participate and interact with one another and take care of each other. And, without that community, without that beating heart, everything else is just a shell and just a veneer.
But Governor Scott contends the system we have now is broken, where small towns cut school budgets to keep spending low, but face a tax hike anyway from the statewide education fund and spending in more affluent communities. The push for education reform sparked by rising costs across the board and a nearly 14% average tax increase last year, and an 18% spike in Peachum. They say state lawmakers should focus on health care and other cost drivers before making changes to Vermont schools.
We want the legislature to focus on that issue of cost and not to wipe out the education system as we know it.
With about a month left until town meeting day, many schools across the state are warning their budgets to voters and crossing their fingers that more budgets pass this year than last. Reporting in Peachum, Calvin Cutler, Channel 3 News.
Get some good work by our Calvin Cutler there. You see that full story on WCAX.com, and also a lot of his coverage since the budget address here in Vermont. But Peter, switching gears, woke up this morning, good amount of snow,
Yep.
Nothing insane.
Yeah.
Like it's the winter.
Yeah.
But I think there's definitely keep a watchful eye out there.
Yeah.
I think some people even just now got a text just now actually Williston. Not so great. So just take it easy.
Still got slick roadways out there, and those roadways could still be a tad slick here through the rest of the morning. While I just wanted to show you satellite radar. We've had a few snow flurries just kind of work their way through the Champlain Valley right now, and we're going to hang on to a few scattered snow showers here as we head through the rest of the day today. They are going to become increasingly more confined to the higher elevations, though, as we head towards about midday. Take a look at 1 o'clock. You can basically make out the spine of the Green Mountains there, the Adirondacks, and we could still see some of those on and off snow showers here through the rest of the day before they begin to wrap up here as we head towards later this evening. Into the day tomorrow, I think a lot of us are actually going to start to enjoy a little bit of sunshine here for your day tomorrow, but we are going to be cooler as well. In terms of additional snowfall here, maybe a trace up to an additional inch or two. However, the higher elevations of the Adirondacks and Green Mountains, they could possibly run an additional 1 to 3 here through the rest of the day today. And then all eyes will turn to our next system as we head towards your day Thursday. It does look like it starts off Thursday after morning commute time. Might as well say by that 9 to 10 o'clock time frame. First across the far southwestern portions of the area, gradually expanding off to the north and east here through the afternoon. There could be some moderate to even heavier snow at times, kind of seeing some of those deeper shades of blue here on Futurecast. Then as we head towards later in Thursday evening, a little bit of mix starts to develop as temperatures actually start to climb a little bit here through the evening and overnight hours. We could actually see a little bit of just plain old rain in some of those broader valley locations like the St. Lawrence River Valley, the Champlain Valley, as well as the Connecticut River Valley. A few leftover snow flurries waking up Friday morning before those begin to diminish here as we head into Friday afternoon. In terms of additional snowfall for that round, I'm going to say a fairly widespread 4 to 8 inches of new snow. However, Champlain Valley, much of northern New York, probably only going to be talking about an additional 2 to 4 here, as we head through that same time frame. Temperatures out there right now, teens and 20s, got a few 30s off to the south, but we're actually losing a little bit of ground temperature-wise here as we head through the rest of the day. Might as well say we'll probably lose an additional 2 to 3 degrees as we head towards this afternoon. Most of us will find ourselves in the teens and 20s come this afternoon. Mainly cloudy skies overhead. Again, still a chance at a few scattered on and off snow showers here through the day today. Tonight, a chilly one out there, either side of that 0 degree mark come daybreak tomorrow morning. Partly cloudy skies overhead. We do have a bit of a breeze out of the north-northwest between 5 and 10 miles per hour. That's going to mean wind chills probably below that 0 degree mark for most of us as we head towards tomorrow morning. Into your day on Wednesday, partly sunny skies overhead. Temperatures climbing back into the teens and 20s here for daytime highs tomorrow. So definitely on the cooler side of things for tomorrow. Again, you'll notice how the precip chances kind of linger around through the early to mid-afternoon hours before starting to diminish here come later this afternoon. 7-day forecast now, not looking too bad here for the day tomorrow. We have that next second round of snow heading our way into the day Thursday. Friday and Saturday, we get a little bit of sunshine, or we're a little quieter, but another round of snow, John, possible as we head towards Saturday night and into the day on Sunday.
Yeah, Peter, I think we're just dealing with some pretty standard,
Yeah,
February weather, going back and forth a little bit between some rain, or not rain, snow,
Yep.
and then probably, 2 days? It's always like snow, a
Yeah.
day off,
Snow, day off.
Day
Yeah,
off.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's just been, we've kind of been a
back and
constant,
forth. Yeah.
constant systems in between days or so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to the next one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
Yep.
That's us here on WCAX Extra. Of course, you can see Peter and I just about, 2 hours? 2 hours?
2 hours and 5 minutes?
25.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So, check it out.
Yep.
Go to WCAX.com. Until then, we'll see you then.